Warm welcome, this is Markus Termin at the 25th of January 2024. It's the full moon day. Full moon will occur this night after sunset and Middle European time. It's the full moon in the sign of Leo. The moon shifted from the sign of Cancer to the sign of Leo, and we have the sun in Aquarius, and the sun is in close conjunction to Pluto, who's also has taken his residence in the sign of Aquarius. Now, the situation of this full moon is like that. Let's have a look at the chart. For me, most interesting at this full moon is the conjunction of Mercury and Saturn in the sign of Capricorn. And both, especially Mars, do have an exact square position to Chiron in the sign of Aries. This is kind of the signature of this full moon. Of course, there's some value on the side of Aquarius. You know, the uprising of the people is just starting now, and as you can see what is happening in Canada by high court decisions, which is a very good message, that it looks like the power of the people will have a comeback with Pluto in Aquarius. And as you can see, Mars and Mercury in the sign of Capricorn, what are they doing in the square position to not only Chiron but also the nodes, the nodes axis. The nodes axis shows a Libra, which is kind of diplomacy, nowadays a thing of the past. They are not going out for diplomats too much out there in the world right now. And up there in Aries, the sign of the warrior, seems to be the direction of the near future. But warriors, Mars warriors, can also be warriors of peace if we turn it around somehow. Chiron is not only good for hurting people, but it has a healing measure, a healing potential. If we look at this full moon and we go back to the initiative new moon, that this full moon came out, we have to pick up another chart. This is the chart of the 16th of August 2023, and it shows the Leo full moon up here. You remember the long retrogradness of Venus in the sign of Leo. We also still have Lilith in the sign of Leo, and this is a Venus retrograde and Lilith new moon in the sign of Leo. And the old teaching by Claudius Ptolemaeus, when astrology got their, well, it didn't start that time, but it got a nice fixation by Claudius Ptolemaeus. It's about 100 after Christ. And he says, from the new moons in the sign, the full moons evolves. This is what kind of comes out of that. And if we have a look on that, you might realize that Mercury and Mars is in quite the same distance to each other in an earth sign, in the sign of Virgo, where now Lilith appears. Then it shows up today as we have the full moon, the flower coming out of the new moon, and Mars and Mercury, and this is one of the miracle signs I love about astrology, are about in the same distance to each other. I call that a similarity of the second row, because it's not really obvious to anybody that this is a parallel aspect, but it is, because they are so similar to each other. And the point kind of close to the point where they were standing or running at the time when we had the initiative new moon for this full moon last year, the 16th of August, we see Lilith in the kind of Virgo. Now, if you look at public developments, you might well think about what is there in, let's call it, power grab of Capricorn forces to get their rules upon each and every one of us. I'm not going to get clearer with words. And it's well possible that the initiative strategies to come out with that started last August, or had their fixation in last August, and that they are trying to make it a rule, a Capricorn rule right now. It's not a company, but the unit that I'm talking about, I'm not going to use names, has clear interest in Lilith values in the sign of Virgo. Virgo, is the health sign, of course, and Lilith in the sign of Virgo might have to do with things like that. They have difficulties pushing through, though, because Mars is in this square position to Chiron. So this square position to Chiron, and of course the north and the south node axis, might save us from those people. And I can't stop saying this. Please look at where is the money coming from institutions to institutions like that. I'm not going to be clear, but there's especially one country in the world giving giving most of the fundings for organizations like that, and this is of course where the power is at. And inside this country, I'm not going to name the country I'm talking about, the people look very different at their own government, and they think they are small and they are weak and they are not transporting international politics. But the truth is that the country itself on an international stage does, the diplomats of the same country that thinks within itself it is weak and it has no sovereignty and things like that, on an international level they act quite self-assured, quite strong, and quite a lot of manifesting their own goals. This is one possible view to look at this full moon, which is after all a full moon of if you take care not to be hurted by this square position, because it has influence, of course, in our personal life. Take care if your own Mars is in the sign of Cancer. Take care if you are a Cancer person in general opposing Mars. Those are trigger points that we would have to look for. And if you want to have a personal look at your chart to find out how is this working out for you, just get on the phone or write me an email. This is the email address, date, time, and place where you were born will be sufficient. And down here at my blog site, you'll find the conditions for a consultation. This is Markus Termin, Astrologisches Stundenbuch, at the 25th of January 2024, high noon, full moon energy.